Hey guys, welcome to Operational Intelligence. This week I'm interviewing a longtime friend of mine and former client of my marketing agency, Jim Heward. He has been in the industry a very long time, and he was an owner of 3 locations, and most recently 3 locations that he sold to Classic about a year or two ago. And when I first was coming up with this idea of this podcast, Jim was one of the first people I had in mind, because he embodies the kind of person that I want to have as a guest on the show, like somebody who really excels at an area that I think other shops can learn a lot from. And so I was very excited to finally get Jim on this episode. So today we're going to talk about throughput, cycle time, and scheduling. It's a big challenge for shops, no matter whether the car count is light or not. You still have scheduling challenges. And Jim's one of those guys that, like a conductor, an orchestra conductor, was just out there in the morning just conducting traffic and getting this car to here and here and just setting up the day. And I think shops can learn a lot from how Jim Heward had to do things at his shop. And so we cover that pretty extensively in this episode. So I think you're going to learn a lot, and I hope you enjoy this episode as much as I did in shooting it with Jim. Welcome to my podcast, Operational Intelligence. I'm Tom Zobel. I spent 15 years running a marketing agency in the collision industry. I sold it, and now I build AI tools at the Hero Group to help shops run better. My favorite part of my agency was never discussing marketing, but it was spending time with the shop owners on the phone and on the shop floor, learning what they were dialed in on and what they tried and what they failed and what finally worked. The world does not need another collision podcast full of generic industry talk, so I'm doing this one my way. It's all about owners teaching owners, one episode, one topic, and one operational lesson that you can take back to your shop and use. And seriously, what is it with all these marketing people turned podcast hosts anyway? All right, so we'll just start here. So Jim, give us a little bit background on yourself, like who you are and how you got into this collision business.
All right. Well, my name is James Heward. I started in the industry at my father's shop at the age of 15. Coming in on summers, sweeping floors, washing cars. And I began to have this love and affinity for what I was seeing. My dad was a body man until he was 40. Then he took over the family business. But watching my father as a tech was amazing. He was probably one of the best I had ever seen. So I asked him, I said, hey man, I would really like to do this. He says, no, we don't want you in this industry, period. I want you to be a doctor. I want you to be a lawyer. I want to pay for an education for you. And when I heard that, I just went south. I'm like, no. So I did as bad as I could in school and got in as much trouble as I could so I could stay in that industry. Now, I'm not saying that industry doesn't have intelligent people. It does. I consider myself to be very intelligent. So much so that I've achieved quite a bit in the collision repair industry. But that's where I started. It was amazing. I stayed with my dad as a car detailer, paint prepper. Started in paint. I did not like it. Chemicals were just killing me. So I apprenticed as a body man for a couple of years. Then I became a tech. I teched for 2 years, and then that's when everything changed. I would get incredibly frustrated not being able to make the money I wanted to make. Mm-hmm. When I would look at the industry as an open checkbook, I'm like, hey, I'm a journeyman. I can produce, I can make as much money as I want to make. But I quickly realized the shops are what holds people back. Their lack of organization, their lack of understanding what they're doing. So it was interesting. I finally convinced my dad. I said, man, can I just run production? He goes, what do you think you are, some kind of genius? I said, well, Dad, you're a DRP. My father was the first DRP shop in the nation. He was the beta test for Allstate when Allstate came out with the Allstate Pro program. Mm-hmm. So he was the first one, and they would still run it like a traditional shop. Car would come in, they would write an estimate. They would park the car, pre-order the part, assign it to the tech disassembles it, parks the car again. They do the supplement. I'm like, what are we doing? And he's like, what do you mean? I'm like, this isn't what you're supposed to do. I go, the DRP was created for one estimate. That's it. Bring the car in, disassemble the vehicle, write the estimate, repair it, ship the paint, get it back, put it together, ship the car. I mean, a lot more complexities in there, but in essence, that's simple.
So what year was that about? What time?
That was 79.
79. Okay.
Yeah,
I didn't realize DRPs.
My grandpa was actually running before my dad. They got that DRP in 1978 is when they brought it to the shops. My grandfather was a very iconic guy in the collision repair industry. He was one of the first guys to become very insurance friendly. He saw what was happening, that everything was shifting. That the carriers wanted more efficiency. They wanted to put more trust in the shops. So he rose his hand and said, I'll do it. And everybody hated him for it, but he did it. And it was an interesting time. I mean, from 1979 through 1986 is where we really learned, where we really became process-oriented. I took my father's shop from about, they thought 200 grand was a good month, to producing right around $1 million by 1986, 1987. We were doing about $1 million a month in top line revenue, which was pretty much unheard of at that time. We had some big articles done. DuPont thought we were just the bee's knees, and we had every other insurance carrier want to partner with us. I mean, 20th Century, AAA, they all came. The only one we didn't partner with was State Farm, which I thought was unusual for my dad. My dad's like, I don't know, that's too big. That might be too much for us.
I remember you telling me a story that that like you mentioned that your dad kind of fought you on running the shop, and then he went away for a period of time or something. He went on like a long trip or vacation or a sabbatical or something, and then he came back to you running the shop and transforming that. Is that am I remembering?
That's kind of what happened. He was just very antiquated. So here, Allstate at the time, we were handwriting everything, Polaroids. It was tough. So EasyS comes to market, and Allstate went with EasyS with CCC, and they said, "Look, you have to automate, or we're going to pull the program." And back in those days, we were doing over $200,000 a month with Allstate alone. And I told my father, I'm like, "What are you doing?" "I'm not doing any of that." I'm like, "Okay, well then we're going to lose." He was getting ready to go on a trip to the UK with DuPont to go look at other stores to see how they do things. He was going on a 30-day trip. So I'm like, this is opportunity. So as soon as he left, I went in that following week. I contacted my people over at CCC. I had them come in. We put 14 workstations in. We got all automated. I put in my production system that I had invented while I was a body man, which basically I called it TAP, tear down, assembly, production. Worked well. Then I actually, I enhanced it over time. But that's what I did. So he comes back after this 30-day sabbatical, as you put it. He goes, "What did you do? And where are all the cars?" Because my dad was that guy that would come into your stall. He had this big beach cruiser he'd ride, a nice Schwinn. He'd sit in front of your stall and he'd go, "Look how good we're doing." And he'd point at all the cars that were parked. And I go, "Well, my stall's empty." I go, "So what?" But he arrives, he goes, "Where are all the cars?" I'm like, "They're up front, done. They're being delivered." I go, "Why don't you go talk to Vicky," that was his bookkeeper, "and see where you're at for sales, Pops." He comes back to my stall and he's like, "We're sitting at 500,000? I'm like, "Yeah, I'm still got a week and a half to go." I go, "So I'm predicting about 800K for the month." He goes, "Well, what have you been doing?" I go, "I've been running production." He goes, "You haven't been fixing cars?" I'm like, "In between running production." He's like, "Wow." I'm like, "Yeah." I go, "Can I have the production manager's job now, please?" He goes, "No, you got to be an estimator first, and then you'll be a production manager." Okay. Well, that's what I did. So I started writing estimates for him. I actually took the Allstate account for him, and I cranked that up. I'd write upwards of 25 to 30 sheets a day, all handwritten. I got Allstate up to about 300,000 a month, and I was still running production while I was writing. So it was pretty cool. So he finally decided to let me run the full thing, and I did that for, not very much longer, because I was being recruited by this guy, Warren Person, that wanted me to come and run his shop and his dealer. So I left my dad at 24 to go do that. I stayed with Caliber for 10 years, had a great time. And then Eric Bickett, He owned Fix Auto USA, and he also owned a couple of corporate stores inside of his network. He was asking me to join him, and I was a little reluctant. I didn't know Eric really. Then, of course, David Goldstein was like, yeah, you don't want to join him. And, of course, wanted to put as much, how do I say this right? He wanted to put as much in my head to make me think twice. Let's say that.
Yeah.
But Eric is a good guy. He's intelligent as they come. Met with me numerous times, and he offered me one of those Steve Jobs packages. I don't know if you ever heard what Steve Jobs would do to get his executives. He would overpay you, give you the world, and lock you down. So when I looked at this offering, I'm like, you serious, dude? If I was to turn it down, I'd be a moron, Tom. Just a moron. And I was at my end game. Caliber. I was tired. I mean, I did a lot for them. And I wanted to move up, and they didn't want me to be in a polished position. I'm not a very polished guy, especially at that time. I'm pretty rough around the edges, as you know. You see me in action. It took me a long time to become a polished presidential type of guy. Eric is the one that made me that guy. So I left. I did. I left David, and that was kind of it wasn't the best divorce. It could have been better. Dave and I would say we both had tall confidence and personalities. So he wasn't really enchanted with me leaving, and I did. And some people left and came with me against my will. They came. I didn't solicit. I didn't offer them anything. They just picked up phones. We want to join you. So they came, and he didn't like that, and I don't blame him. He got pissed about it. But I came in at the same time that Eric was bringing in Paul Gange. And he brought Paul in to be his CEO of the network of the franchise operation. And Paul brought a gentleman with him, Tim Clark, that was with USAA, that had left USAA. And Paul was able to get our first insurance contract through USAA, and then they brought me in as their operations guru to run the corporate side. So we took Eric's, I think he had 2 at the time, we grew that to 10 corporate locations. We were generating a little over 40 plus million a year in revenue. It was a great time. That's when I really got to put all my processes into play. I was the vice president of operations, working right next to Eric and Paul for our stuff. Eric and Paul would ask me to go help independent owners. That was fun. We were literally probably one of the best regional MSOs within Fix in the U.S. It was quite a journey. So I did that. I stayed with Eric for a decade. It was another 10 years. Then Eric wanted to sell. He was getting to that age. He's like, I want to retire now, man. It's time. He didn't retire. He's back at the business course. We sold out. That was right in 2020. So at that time, I was like, what am I going to do next? I was pretty set. I was like, should I retire? What should I do? My wife's like, no way. No way. So that's when I reached out to the industry, and I contacted some friends. I contacted Exalta, PPG, and my insurance partners. Where do you guys need a good operator? And the big guy said, Queen Creek, Arizona. It's the fastest growing city in America. No one can keep up, and there's zero performance. None. They pound their chest in Arizona. It's the wild, wild west here. We do what we want, and take it or leave it. We want somebody that's insurance compliant, insurance friendly, that'll go and do what we need you to do. I'm like, okay. So a gentleman by the name of Dennis Keneally, he was with Exalta at the time. He knew a gentleman by the name of Bruce Painter that was getting ready to shut his shop down. He wasn't even selling it, just shutting it down. He was going to lease it to an off-road company. He got me in contact with Bruce in the nick of time. And Bruce's son, Jesse Painter, just a phenomenal young man, badass collision repair tech, one of the best I've ever worked with in my life. Still see Jesse to this day. We connected. We loved him. We all three just fell in love. All of our stories were the same. Third generation collision repairers, our dads. It was amazing what happened. So they sold this body shop to me at a price that most people would just scratch their head. What? They gave me the cheapest rent under the sun so I'd be successful. We renamed it Painter's Auto Body to Painter's Collision Center with the intent to grow to multiples. you were part of that time.
Yeah, that's when I enter the equation. Yeah,
You were our guy. I mean, what you did for us was just phenomenal with Stratosphere and your organization. Just between bringing on my big partners, State Farm and Geico, and everybody joined us immediately. Well, State Farm made me wait 90 days, but with the promise they would come. They didn't want any turnover. And then with your marketing strategies, that company was producing, we were doing 300,000 a month in the first 3 months. Within 6, it was doing 450s. Within 8, we were doing 5. The average sale turned out at 600K. It did 600K into perpetuity in the next 3 years, like it was nothing. Then we bought the second store, Chandler. Then we bought Apache Junction. Then we created our ADOS hub. We were generating close to 20 million a year in revenue. And we had some of the highest EBITDAs. I hate that term. I think EBITDA is bullshit. But our net numbers were 23%.
Yeah, that's good.
With best KPIs in the industry. There's nobody better than painters. No one across the nation could touch us. Yeah. And I'm not bragging. I'm just saying that's what happened. You know, my processes are solid. I've learned from some of the best in class. So we sold out the Classic Collision January 12th of 2024. Now I miss it. I genuinely miss it. Yeah, I've been doing some other things in motorsports, dabbling with all of that. But that's where I'm at, you know. And Tom, I want to thank you on this podcast. I hope it gets out there because you were instrumental in what you did for painters.
Well, thanks.
You were just phenomenal.
I really enjoyed working with you, and because you were a guy that tries stuff. You know, not everyone's like that. You know, as long as it worked, you know, you trusted it, and then the next thing I handed you is like, hey, we want to do this video, we want to do this, do that. You're like, bring it, let's do it, you know. And so I loved coming out to your shops. I loved watching you in action. I loved learning from you. I learned so much from all the things I'm doing now come from the time spent with guys like you and coming out to your shops and sitting there and watching and observing and asking the questions and sitting in your office and asking the text and all that stuff. So, which is a good transition now to the topic at hand, which is, the purpose of this podcast is to, like I was telling you, I'm just sort of the conduit. It's owner to owner. So something that I saw that an owner really excelled at, and I have a very strong vision, I'll tell you in just a second, but something that an owner really excelled at, that they were passionate about, that they were just super talented at, that they could see around the corners that other people just can't, other owners just can't see that way you can see it. And so I want to focus on that topic and that topic alone, and we just dive deep in it so the next guy can learn. Like we've covered close ratio, we've covered, company culture, we've covered, how to be the only independent amongst DRPs, all these kinds of things. But for you, I've been dying to get to this topic, which is throughput, which is something that I'm passionate about, being in the AI space, because I think AI can really give owners a leg up on this, because AI can see around the corners. But this image that I always have of you is, one of these days I was out there doing a video shoot at your shop, and I'm setting up the camera angles and I'm walking the camera guys, we're going to shoot here, we're going to do this, we're going to, and all that stuff. As I'm doing that, you're out there to understand your shop. So being in Arizona, you have these awning areas. It's kind of a unique thing in Arizona when you can have a shop without a shop, right? You can have open air spaces. So your shop, you had your shop, and then you had these awning places, and your parts was over there, and you had your parts guy was there, and cars came in from the left and parked all the way at the end of this long strip. And you're standing there in the middle of both areas, and you're like a traffic cop. You're directing traffic. You're quarterbacking this thing. And to watch you do it, I wish I had gotten that on video. Maybe I do have it on video, but it was like this I don't know, orchestra conductor. You're just sort of waving your baton, and then you step away, right? And then the day happens, and you're up in your office. You're doing this and that, and. You later on you're having tacos with the guys, and it's just so that's what I want to focus on is your mastery of throughput, all these years and all these shops that you've worked at, this craft that you've honed. Let's dive into that. So I guess my first question on that is, why throughput, I guess? Why is that the thing that you kind of excel at? Like, what is it about that, like, that you've learned over the years that this is what matters the most?
Well, I met this owner. His name is Tim Beal. I don't know if you know who Tim Beal is. He owns his collision repair up in Prescott, Arizona.
Yeah, I know. Beals was a client of ours, yeah.
Tim's a good guy.
I never met Tim, but I met his wife, so she was our client.
It's funny because he said something to me years back. He says, Jim, the man with the biggest net is the most successful owner. And I thought, that's interesting, really? So you're saying the guy with the biggest profit is the most successful? He's like, absolutely. He goes, why are you doing this?
Yeah.
Well, I want to make a living. He's like, well, what's your net, Jim? And I told him, he goes, well, you win. But how? I go, throughput. He's like, throughput? I'm like, yeah. I go, I'll get really real here. Is that okay? I'll just lay it out there.
That's what it's all about, this podcast.
Okay. I'm tired of, I'm still in the industry to this day. Well, I don't own currently. I do own a motorsports organization, but I'm not a collision repair owner right now. I will be soon, okay? Yeah. I'm going back in. I'm going to go hard again.
Yeah.
But I'm still involved. I still talk to corporate leaders. I have hundreds of independent friends and owners. Mm-hmm. And I tell them this every day. Well, I'm on a call at least daily with one of them. I say, I don't understand. Why do you think length of rental and key to key is so important for the carrier? Why do you care? Well, that's our cycle time. They'll give us more volume. I'm like, yeah, they will. Absolutely. I go, but if you're doing it just for them, you're doing it for the wrong reason. They're like, what do you mean? I'm like, look, throughput is what creates your profitability. Simply put, that's it. The reason why I wanted to become a master at throughput is so I could have the most profitability. I wanted to be able to make enough money to where, well, let me back that up. I wanted my stores to generate enough revenue to overpay. So all my technicians were overpaid. I'm tired of hearing that too. Oh, we can't make any money. Technicians are this. No, it's not. It's all relevant to your top line revenue at the end of the day.
So when you mention throughput, I think some people would assume that throughput means car count. It means cycle time and things like that. But when you say throughput, exactly what do you mean by that? Like the dollar throughput, like the dollars going through the shop, not the car count. Is that
the car count is the dollars, right? So those are one. Those are all in one at the end of the day. But how much revenue can I push through? How many turn times can I turn my whip in a month's time? Okay. That's key. It really is. That's what's going to generate my profit. If my break even is $100,000, what do I need to do? Turn my whip once to generate 100 so I break even with no profitability? Or do I turn that 2 times? Let's say on a minimum. Now I generated $200,000 in revenue. My expense does go up a little bit, right? But not that much. Your operating expenses do not change that much. What fluctuates is going to be your top line. Your technicians are always going to pay for themselves. Materials will change, things will change. However, your profitability will double.
Well, your expenses go up, but it goes up in relation to the sales, right? The percentages should be about the same, right? Parts are about 50% of the bill, paint materials. So one car, 100 cars, it should still scale, right? Or does it? Exactly. Or do the economics change? Yeah, okay.
Exactly. Yeah. I actually did a class. There's another gentleman out there. His name is Jim House. Jim is a brilliant operator. I mean, Jim just started his own company, does a lot of accounting for body shops now. We had Jim at Fix Auto for quite some time. And Jim and I did a class for one of the Fix Auto conferences based on throughput. We'd show a store that would turn their whip 1 to 1.5 times, literally making 0.8 tenths net. Then going over to a shop like mine that turned their whip 6 times in a month, but 23% net. And then we'd show them cost structures and how it all works. But a technician is static. It's always the same cost no matter what. No matter what. But it does go up, of course, because they're making more money as we generate more money.
Okay.
Right? So the throughput model that you have in place is what will make you the profit you need at the end of the day. Right? And how did we do that? And everybody says, well, you got to do this. It's all about how you process the car. Okay. People would say, well, Jim, there's no way that you could produce a 5-day key to key at a 9-hour day touch time and produce quality. I'm like, that's not true. I used to fight with some people in the industry that you know as well that would argue with me that no matter what you do under the DRP blanket, you're not fixing cars correctly. And I'm like, baloney. I am too. And I would offer you to come in and audit a car anytime. And I did. Yeah. But it came down to how we would process them. So I had 3 categories of repair.
Right.
Cat 1, Cat 2, and Cat 3.
Right.
That's it.
So a Cat 1, small bumper job, let's just call it that, right? Small hit. Cat 2 is a drivable but bigger hit. And a Cat 3 is the quote-unquote train wreck, right? Is that, or was it by hours? Like, how would you define a Cat 1, 2, 3? And
I could do it by both. I simplified it by dollars is what I did. Now, things changed as ADOS became more and more prevalent. I had to change up the dollar amount a little bit. In my first days, when I worked with a gentleman by the name of Ron Kuhn, and Ron's another genius.
Yes.
Him and I worked on these processes together. Then we put cycle time composites behind it with all the data. I actually have data to prove it all. Is when we really were able to hone this in. So back in the day, a $1,500 or less job was a Cat 1. A Category 2 was $1,500 to $5,500, and a Category 3 was $5,500 or greater. Now we changed that as things evolved. The Category 1 became $2,500 or less, and then upward. Mm-hmm. So that's how we would process them.
Okay.
And we were adamant about it. We never deviated.
And so you categorize them. That's a fairly easy thing to do. But then what happens next is the magic, which is how you fit them into the schedule, right? Was that the, and then, tell me more about that. So, because I know Ron's kind of model. I used a lot of his advice in building my AI scheduler. But I want to hear it in your words, like what you did.
Well, people argue with me. I will always argue back that WIP management is key. A shop can only handle so many Category 3s at a time. Mm-hmm. So we had our sets where we take 10 Cat 3s a month. Mm-hmm. That's really it. That's when we were at capacity. We couldn't take any more of those, or they would just sit. Mm-hmm. Now, as I added more locations, I just load leveled them.
Right.
But prior to that, I would send them up the street to Caliber. I'd send them to Crash Champions. And people thought I was crazy. They're like, you're losing all that work. I'm like, I'm not losing anything. I lose nothing. As a matter of fact, I keep a lean, mean, efficient operation that way. And I go, Caliber's not mad. They want the work. Crash isn't mad. They want the work. And my partners are happy because I'm not trying to hoard it. Yeah. And say, I can take it. And then I create a downswing in LOR.
Yeah.
A downswing in CSI. What does the insurance carrier want? Insurance company wants retention of their insured. Simply put, they don't want to lose their customers.
Right.
But they lose customers when body shops don't perform. So WIP management is key. So I was very adamant with that. I sit with my partner leaders and I say, hey, Tom, I'm only going to take in from your company probably 3, maybe 4 major hits a month. And my 4 top players, I would take 2 to 3 per player. Then the rest were Cat 2s and Cat 1s.
Yeah, so you had like literally a set number on any given week, right? Would you look at it weekly, daily? Like how would you determine when to stack, like your model for like 1s, 2s, and 3s? We
never turned away a 1 or a 2 ever.
Yeah. So those you grabbed every one of them. Okay.
Every single one. It just didn't matter. Sometimes we wouldn't even schedule. That's how efficient we were.
Right.
Because as soon as that Cat 1 would come in, and the way I set up my technicians, so I had one big team, and then I had 3 other independent operators in the store. So I had 3 individual techs, then I had a team of 5.
Okay.
So the tech team of 5, those guys were the animals of that shop. Now, all of my shops had the same setup. Every single one, I had the same adoption in there and how we bring them in. So the team of 5 were literally handling all Cat 1s.
Okay.
It was insane. They would handle about 20% of the Category 2s, and then they would handle almost every single Category 3 as well.
Okay.
Now, when that team got to a point where they were too loaded up, we would move some of the Category 1s over to the other 3 guys. But the other 3 guys, the majority of what they were doing were Category 2s.
Okay.
That's how that worked. Now, the team of 5, the Cat 1s were such quick work, they had one guy, that's all he did. And he was prepared all day, every day. I did the same thing with Caliber Collision in Santa Monica. I had a team of 3 guys, and that's all they did was the Category 1s. Nobody else could touch them. Did it create friction in the shop to start? A little bit. But once everybody saw what it did for the shop, now they could process a Category 2 and even process Category 3 faster because they weren't as distracted. It just seemed to work very well. So the big argument was the pull. Pulling people off. So for example, if I have my team focused on, let's say there's no Category 1s that day, it's 10 o'clock in the morning, they're all focused on Cat 2s, Cat 3s. If a Category 1 came in, very rare would I schedule it. We'd just take it. Tom, drop it right now, give us your keys, we'll have it in production in 30 minutes. We had time standards to everything. Now it sounds chaotic, I know, but it really wasn't. We honed it in really tight. So a car get dropped off, it would be with that team within 30 minutes of arrival. That Category 1 tech would jump off what he was doing on those Cat 2s or Cat 3s, and he'd just hit that car hard, get it disassembled. Now remember, a Category 1 repair is 5 parts to 0 parts. And what do those parts look like? A headlight, maybe a fender bumper. But the majority of it was repair. Our repair to replace ratio was 74% repair versus replace. Mm-hmm. We repair as much as we possibly could. You know, in the time of the repairable tech, they're not around like they used to be. And if you have a guy that can repair anything, hold them close to you and keep them as long as you can and have them train people. But that's how we did it. And it just worked phenomenally.
So you had a set ratio of like Category 3s and the same for 2s but not 1s. You would just take all the 1s you can get. But did the 2s, did you have a number of 2s, like say 20 2s in a week or something like that? Or did, because I know what Ron told me is that you come up with this sort of number of this many 3s, this many 2s, this many 1s, and then you try to always achieve stasis of that. So like, you know, if you take 10 2s and you got 8, you need to be trying to get those other 2 in there. That's at least what I got from Ron. Maybe I'm saying it wrong, but that was what was kind of my big takeaway. It was like, you got, like, if these are jars and you try to always keep the jars full, and that's how you determine what comes in, and that's what keeps that throughput always moving properly. Is that right? Do I have that right?
You do. That was a big piece of it. You know, we had to keep our thumb on it tightly because sometimes we would overload, and overloading the shop, you know, that gets. So we were very, very cautious on bringing those in as well. But we could average. We could probably do 20 to 30 Category 2s a week, easily. Mm-hmm. Easily. Now remember the internal throughput of the shop, I mean, tear down assembly production and how we would do it, it was quite remarkable. These Category 1s were painted the same day they arrived.
Right.
So if that car got in at 7 in the morning, that car was painted that night and was built the next morning. The Category 2, when it hit the paint shop at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and people would always argue with me, but I would do a lot of batch priming. Yeah. They're like, no. And I'm like, no, this works. Why? Because I'm going to have everything primed at the same time. And then all these cars will be prepped, bagged, painted tomorrow morning. They'll all be back in for reassembly tomorrow afternoon about 1 to 2 o'clock.
And because you repaired so much, parts wasn't an issue then? Like parts timing, parts delays. Yeah.
So we were during the COVID thing. We kicked ass.
Yeah. So did you use like the flatliner systems and stuff, and you had all that equipment to repair?
Oh,
and, yeah. So do you think that was probably one of the big unlocks to your throughput? Was to be able to like a high repair versus replace? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, because parts is, you know, somebody listening to this may be asking themselves, yeah, but what about parts? Like I can't, you know, maybe I can't get parts in that festival.
I can't. Little shops, they struggle. You know, a lot of my shops are right in the metro areas. You know, I've got all the Earnhardts, all the Penske's. I got everybody around me.
Yeah, you're in a big metro, so that helped a lot too. Yeah.
And in the California market, the processes were incredibly successful. I ordered parts out in 2 hours.
Yeah.
You know, so that was huge.
And then, so your techs, the other thing I see a lot of shops do is like the guy gets a car, he stays on that car, but you would pull people off. Somebody would maybe start a car, but another guy would finish it. Do you think that, no, that's not the case, or that is the case?
Same tech finish, I just pull them off the job to do a teardown or do an assembly. So teardown, assembly, production, that's what Ron and I would argue about that a lot. He's like, well, if you don't have all the parts, why are you starting the job? I'm like, what are you talking about? I go, if I don't have a quarter panel, all I need is a cut sheet. I can pull it. I can cut the quarter off. I can get all my metal flat, cleaned up and prepped and ready to go. What do you mean? Down that quarter panel lands, I'll have the thing welded on, and in the paint shop in 4 hours of that panel arriving.
Versus right. What? What's the alternative to that?
Versus just letting the car sit there until all the parts arrive.
Okay, so...
Then what's happening while you're doing that, your whip is stacking. Yeah. Now you have a car that's delayed. It doesn't make any sense to me. So everybody would argue with me.
So who is in your shop? Was that you doing that quarterbacking? You determining, hey, we're going to do this? Or did you still have your production manager? It was Marvin, right? Was that your production manager? No,
Marvin was one of my later men. Rob Collins was my right hand. So I trained Rob. I brought Rob with me here to Arizona. Rob was a very skilled estimator. But he just had a great big personality too. I trained him. So Rob became my regional manager and he oversaw all my locations, but he was my guy. I mean, him and I think alike. We have the same personalities. He's like me. He's highly driven, up early, bed early. He likes to make money. He's one of those guys. So he was able to take my process and really wrap it around his brain. He understood it. Yeah. So, for example, you're a technician for me. You're a standalone tech. You're currently working on 2 Category 2s, 1 Category 3. My team of 5 is packed. They can't take another Cat 1. Cat 1 comes in. Tom, I need to stop on this Category 2 and this Cat 3 for the next 25, 30 minutes. I need this car disassembled. Please organize all the parts on the part racks properly. As soon as you're done, let the writer know. He'll be right out. Okay. It's not how easy that was. They'd stop, disassemble that car, have it all ready to go. Writer comes out. Tech goes back. He's still working on the car. Questions are asked. He answers the questions. Goes back, finalizes the estimate, starts the repair, Mr. Tech. Mr. Tech goes over there, fixes the car based on trust and the communication they had. You're getting 2 hours for this, 4 hours for that, blah, 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 get it into paint. Okay. Tech would do it. Now, there's one key thing and one key metric that everybody has to understand. That cycle time is an average. It's an average. It's 1 day job, a 3 day job, a 5 day job, a 10 day, a 15, a 30 day. All combined into one, all the days, and divided by the repair order. It's a very, very simple mathematical equation. But most people don't even understand that part, Tom. They're just going through, and they don't even know what cycle time truly looks like. Yeah. So, a Category 3, if it's going to be in my shop for 30 days, it's going to be there for 30 days. Why do I care? At that point, I don't care anymore. What I care about is everything below it. Mm-hmm. So, if I have 10 Category 3s that stay in my shop for 30 days, but I can generate a cycle time below that of 2 to 3, my offset is now 5.
So that's a good tip right there. So don't take cycle time as the number, take it as one of 3 numbers, or at least one of 2 numbers. So you have a Cat 3 cycle time, and then you got a shop cycle time, essentially.
You can have a cycle time per category that create your overall cycle time. Yeah. Right? It's averages. It's like I always try to say to everybody. There's this another gentleman in the industry. He may have retired by now. Robert Tavares. There's this guy that was with Caliber Collision that was an absolute genius. He was one of the guys that sat on the backside of everything and would teach everybody, no, this is what you do, this is what you do. Well, I got to sit with Robert one day. And he goes, Jim, do you even understand the cycle time formula and what it is? I'm like, my ego got in the way for a second. I'm like, no, I don't know. He taught me. And it was so, and once he did, I'm like, really? This is easy. Easy. There was a time in my Velvet Hammer shop, I would do bumper jobs on Mondays only. They would all be pre-painted over the weekend. I had my painter come in, he'd come in and paint 30 bumpers. And we install all bumpers on a Monday. And all those cars had an average of 10 hours labor on them or more. And they'd all be produced in 1 day. So bring in 30 cars, 10 hours of labor on each one, all produced in a day. The time you drop your car off at 7:30 in the morning, you got your car back at 4 in the afternoon. Right? Just creative things like that. However, that kind of died out. There just wasn't that much bumper work available.
Yeah.
So that's how we looked at it by the average. So if I have a car that comes in, it can be in and out in a day, or I have one that comes in that's 2 days, or if I have several. So if I have 5 or 6 cars per week that are in there for 2 days, I have 10 that are in there for 3 days, my cycle time or my OR or my overall throughput is going to be remarkable in comparison to industry. People say it's too much management, Jim. I'm like, no, it's not. It takes 3 months. 3 months of discipline and diligence, and then the team does it on their own. Why? Because the technicians make more money than they have ever made. The estimators make more money than they have ever made, and so is the manager.
So they self-police after that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, they get.
I'm in the game to make money. I'm not in this game to sit here and bitch about what I don't get.
Yeah.
If I don't get it, it's on me. It's on me. It's on no one else. It's remarkable how it works. I could do the cycle time formula. It's just interesting how it works. +4 +5. I'm just going to do this and put it up on the screen real quick.
Okay. I'll add it to the show notes too here.
That'd be cool. This may not be the best example. But for example, what I'm doing is I'm just taking the days. So 1 day, a 2 day, a 4 day, a 5 day. I'm adding all those up to get my total days. And each one of these numbers represents the repair order. So I didn't add up the days. Let's say this is 60 days in total, divided by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 repair orders. That would be 5.45 days.
So each one of those numbers represents how many days in the shop that car would be?
Yeah, so 1 day, 2 day, a 4 day, a 5 day, 6 day. The 7 day, I would say, doesn't need to be there for 7 days. Probably 5. Why 7? That's an estimator that didn't do his job. Right? So I would go back to my guy, Rob, and say, hey, Rob, that 7 day, get it done by Friday. Please don't let it go over the weekend. Okay, no problem. And we got it done every single time, by the way.
Yeah.
Right, so you have that. So let's just tick that to a 5. Right? That's a 3, a 9, a 15, another 2, and another 30-day job.
Yeah.
But that 30-day job, it stayed in there for 30 days. And I think everybody's starting to understand what I'm saying now. That stayed in there for 30 days. It didn't matter because I still produced a 5.45 day CT based on these numbers here.
Right.
But the real caveats are the 1, the 2s, the 4, the 5s, the 3s, and the 2s. Right?
Yeah.
It's real simple.
That makes a lot of sense to me. So, and then parts delays, I know a lot of people are going to be listening to this and be like, well, what about parts and that? Because I know.
Oh, they always use parts for the excuse.
Yeah, parts and then insurance, pushback. So my question is, so now let's say, that's a DRP. What happens if you're an independent? Does it make a difference? Like if you're an independent,
absolutely.
And two things: either you don't have the luxury of being able to pick and choose all those different cars and things like that because you got to kind of take what comes your way. And if you are more of a replace versus repair shop, how does these formulas need to change for a guy like that might be listening to this?
That's a great question. It really is. You can apply the same type of cycle time formulas or throughput formulas to non-DRP, you can, or part-heavy replacement shops. It comes down to how you're stacking it and how you're bringing it in. But you did say something key here. You said, what about the ones that don't have the opportunities like the DRPs do with all the smaller work? That's difficult. It is. And that's when you have to get super smart on what you're repairing versus what you're replacing, what type of technicians you have in the building, and how you're equipped. That's when having repair techs are vital. We're vital.
So then estimating must then be a key piece to that, right? So your estimator needs to be able to make those decisions, who is not only conscious of what does the car need, but what does the production need, right? Did
Absolutely.
you connect those dots in your shop so that the estimators knew what the production
Absolutely.
needs were? How did you do that? Was that a
Well, they
daily
understood the
meeting?
process. They understood category 1, 2, and 3. They knew that no matter what they were doing, it did not matter. If they're writing a category 2, they stop everything. It stops. Everything goes into freeze. And that category 1 is literally, I used to call it party time. You probably heard me say that. Party time, I'd say it on our radios. Category 1, party time. And that started, I had my CSRs doing that. Category 1 just dropped, boom, everything stops. Category 1, boom. I always ran with 3 writers, so I always had somebody that was probably available. But that's how we did it, and they understood the process at a very high level.
So did they have any kind of metric? Like, so let's say I'm one of your estimators, and I get, it doesn't matter, 2, 3, 1, doesn't matter, and I'm writing this car, and I'm thinking about this both as a DRP and if I'm an independent, and I really need to kind of like think about repair versus replace and things like that. Was there a number where I was looking at to know we need this for here, and even to be able to schedule it in on these days? Like
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, that's where things get a little more complex.
Yeah.
So you would see me out there. I called it my production drop line. You saw me out there coordinating, earlier in the mornings before we would have our actual production meetings. Our production meeting would start at 7 a.m., right? And we have our key techs and our writers. Everybody's in that room. We had 3 a day. So the first one started at 7 a.m. Now that was a full-blown leadership meeting, KPIs, sales, gross margins, and then every single car was looked at, right? So we would go through and we'd say, okay, we're ready. We can take in 4 category 1s today. We can take in 2 category 2s based on what's being delivered.
Okay.
That's how we did it. So out in, out in.
Yeah. Okay.
So we would deliver an average of 15 cars a day.
Okay.
Every single day like clockwork, right? You didn't see me doing hockey stick production. At the end of the month, you're going here and that's not how it was. Our production was very consistent.
Right. Yep.
Right. But I'm glad you brought that part up. So everybody's probably going, well, what? Yeah. Those production meetings were key.
Yeah. So that goes back to that jar principle, right? So you would always tell everybody how low the jars were getting every day.
Yes.
You did that. So So I think that must be key. So not only the understanding your cycle time by category, understanding how many categories the shop can successfully handle, and I want to get back to that and just kind of ask you, how do you get to that number? But then also being able to communicate that daily, upstream or downstream, whatever you want to call it, to the estimators. So as they're writing these things, they're writing it not only like they're thinking about, when do I bring this car in, when does, and all that kind of stuff, so that they're kind of controlling the beat of that drum. So Jim, I do want to get back to this. How do you determine? This was a question I always wanted to ask Ron. How do you determine the number? Like you said, 5 Cat 3s. If you were to go in, if you were to just, visit some guy in Gary, Indiana, and you're looking at his shop, and he's like, Jim, I need your help with Throughput. I love this category thing. How do I know how many are in my shop? What would you tell that guy so that he knows?
Let's get production. Let's print it out right now. Let's walk the shop. Let's see what you got. Let's get you acclimated to what's here at the shop. Understand how many you have, and now let's start with managing intake on category 3s. Let's determine a number that your shop can handle, and let's only bring in that many category 3s per month.
So how do you determine that? Is there a number that you're looking at?
That's going to be skill set. That's going to be location. Are you rural? Are you metro? I mean, where are you? Right? Parts availability, like you mentioned a minute ago. That's key.
Yeah.
Right. The skill set of the journeyman. That's key. Right. Square footage. How much space do you have? I mean, there's a lot of key metrics there. But ultimately, it's going to come down to what that technician can truly produce in a month's time on top of a category 3, maybe 2. How many can he do? Each individual technician has a certain plateau of what they can and cannot do. How many times can they be disrupted in a day before they actually get a bad attitude or whatever? The ones that I've worked with and the ones I bring in, I teach them that up front. You're going to be interrupted throughout a day. You probably will not have any peace in the day until 3 in the afternoon. And that's when you can laser focus on whatever you want to focus on. But the majority of the day is going to be disassembly first in the morning. Secondary is going to be assembly. And third is going to be production.
Okay.
Right? So today, we're delivering, each tech is delivering 2 category 1s, 2 category 2s, and we're actually going to get rid of 3 category 3s today. So tomorrow, we can bring in 6 category 2s, 6 category 1s, and 1 category 3. Did I say that right?
I try, if I go back and read the numbers.
I might have my number wrong there, but that's kind of how we did it.
Yeah, but you get the idea.
There was no true, there's not a formulated science to it. It came down to literally day-to-day operations. Yeah. And then once you do that consistently, it becomes the fiber of the shop.
Yeah.
And that was the beauty of it. I do have a lot of this documented in black and white. But like I said, it's always the argument out there. Even corporate America would argue with me about it. They say it's too much management, we have to figure out how to make it simpler. I'm like, okay, whip manage category 3 and take everything else in and just deal with it. That's up to you guys.
Yeah.
Or do you guys want to do it based on hours you can produce in a week's time? How many hours can a tech produce? What can he really do? But guess what? A tech's ability to produce hours is going to be strictly dependent on how quickly they can write the sheet, how fast they can procure the parts.
Yeah.
They're dependent on that. They're only as good as the people around them. And that's a key thing as well.
Yeah.
You go interview most technicians, and the biggest thing they're going to say is estimators are disorganized. I once talked to this gentleman, his name is William, I'll never forget William. He owned a shop in Oregon. He asked me to come up and consult. He has one tech, has 20 jobs assigned to him. 20.
Yeah, that's insane.
One of the jobs is a bumper job that had been in the facility for 15 days.
Oh my God.
And he had several bumper jobs in the facility for 15 days. So I grabbed the tech and I grabbed Will and I go into their office. I'm like, so tech, explain to me how you feel right now. I feel overwhelmed. I can't manage any of this. And I look at Will and I'm like, who's managing production? Who's telling this guy right here what he needs to do today? So, that said, you got a list every day, Tom, what you have to produce, what needs to go to paint, what's being shipped that day. And teardowns were done as they came. But you literally, you know how CCC works. I could give each technician their own production document and have every single car assigned to them. 1, 2, 3, 4. We'd itemize it out that way. Same with paint. Mm-hmm. Same with everything.
Yeah.
Everything was numbered out, processed out. It worked beautifully. It's hard to really sit here and go through it. If I had some whiteboards and I had a day's worth of time, I could sit in front of a group and I could really, really hone this in and really get it to work in your brain. Yeah. Some people are going to listen to this and go, oh, I get what Jim's saying. Some people say, that sounds like a cluster F. And somebody says, too much disruption in a day. And I'm going to say, well, my numbers prove you're all wrong.
Right. I mean, and shop after shop and group after group, Fix Auto, Caliber, these are not unknown chops, right? You've proven this as a turnaround
teams
formula.
And regionals, once they learned this, they were blown away. They would go and implement it. Like I'd have a group of regional managers working for me. I'd put them in rooms. I'd find one shop, then we'd go into the big conference rooms and the whiteboards, and I'd use that shop as my training ground. And I said, this is how you do it, and this is the view. They're like, what? I go, yeah. All right, today I get asked by leaders of MSOs all the time, well, you can't do this in scale. I go, absolutely can. Well, how? I go, it starts in a room. It starts with your VP, and it starts with all the regional people in one room. And everybody has to learn this via these boards and everything we're doing with, and then they have to go implement it. Mm-hmm. And then they have to hold their general managers accountable to it. But how do they get their general managers? They bring their general managers into one room, and they teach that group. Mm-hmm. Now, if you have 1,500 shops, and each regional manager is assigned 7 to 10, it seems to me like it can be done over a period of time. Some of the smaller regional MSOs, there's one here in Arizona, I just love them. I think they're awesome, and I think their leadership is amazing, and they're really starting to make a change. That's Kaizen Collision, and Vince Brock is amazing. He owned ProCare that he sold to Classic I think that was the name. Vince is a genius, very, very smart. Just got small locations, right? 48 stores. If I was able to work, I go to work for Vince tomorrow.
Yeah.
And I would work with him and Sam Winters, his COO, and Sam's an amazing guy. I would go work with those guys, and we could get this implemented to all 48 of their stores within a year. Mm-hmm. Then they would have the best performing locations in the nation. I can promise you that.
But your classic non-compete is why you can't work right now, so unfortunately.
I keep telling Classic I'll do that for them, but they just kind of ignore me. So whatever.
Yeah.
That's the thing. I'm not bragging. There's nothing perfect.
Yeah, right. No, that's definitely. But this is teaching. The whole point of this podcast is to teach and learn from people that I think do something really well, and teach those that might be struggling with that. That's my hope, is that they find the answers in this.
Yeah, I get really excited about it. Sometimes I talk too fast, or I talk too long, or talk too much. But it's really finite. There's a lot involved, and it's very multi-layered.
Yeah.
It's like this mechanical industry I decided to jump into is very complex. I don't like it very much.
Yeah.
Collision repair is action-based. There's lots to do, and it's multi-layered. And it's just understanding each one of those layers to get your outcome. Mm-hmm. But I want to encourage all owners to really focus on throughput for themselves, not for the carrier. Mm-hmm. No, do it for you. And if you do it for you, the carrier is going to get the result, and they're just going to keep making you busier.
So explain that a little bit. What do you mean by do it for you, like the numbers that work for you? You mean, right? The dollar.
Creating a throughput model to create the best cycle times you can. Because that's where the owner of the body shop is going to make the most money. Owners make, I won't get into that because it's huge and I don't want everybody to get mad, right? But if you, like for me, for example, if I ended my month with 100,000, I'd turn it a minimum of 4 times. If I ended at 150, I'd turn it 4 times. If I ended at 200, I'd turn it 4 times.
Wait, ended what? You're saying that's your 100? Okay.
Yeah. So if I end the month at 100 grand in revenue, turning into the next month, okay, I have to turn that a minimum of 4 times to be as profitable as I want to be. So I'd have to be at 400,000 at the end of the month.
Okay. Yeah.
If I landed at 150, I'd want to turn that 150 4 times. 600.
Wait, so let me make sure I'm understanding when you say landing at. So you're saying, like, if you were to take your first month of what does that mean? What do you mean by landed? Explain that to me.
If I did, let's say I ended my month at 400,000 with 100,000 left over. That's called a work in process.
Okay, 100,000 in left over. Okay, in WIP.
So
okay,
I'm turning 100 in WIP into the next month. I need to turn that a minimum of 4 times.
Yeah.
To get my top line sale of 400K.
Yes.
And to get the profitability I want. Right?
Yes. Yes.
Most body shops can't even turn their WIP 2 times.
Yeah. So okay, I get what you're saying now. I wasn't understanding by that it was the WIP that you're talking about. Yeah. I think a lot of people don't even, like in the commercial truck world, they don't even WIP adjust. Like big chain shops. Yeah. They don't even do WIP adjustments in their numbers.
That's another P&L issue. They're not getting true numbers.
Yeah.
Their numbers are skewed on their P&Ls monthly, and they chew it up at the end of the year, and that's a huge hit.
Yeah.
I recommend doing WIP adjustments monthly, having an accounting team that is excellent to your business, and administration has to keep up. Administration cycle time has to be just as fast as the car's moving.
Yeah.
That's a key piece. And Ron Kuhn will say that all day long.
Yeah.
It's key.
Like I always ask this question, like if you were to teach a master class in this, so is there anything we left off? Like, is there anything, like if you were to teach this to the next shop owner, whether it's an independent, a DRP shop, an MSO, doesn't matter. Is there anything that we didn't cover that should be?
Absolutely.
Okay.
People. The right people.
Okay.
Hire slow, fire fast. It's a big thing. Corporate America was so afraid of me because of that thinking. I'm a big believer in upgrading. Collision repair is like a Super Bowl football team. I mean, either you're the best or you're not. You know what I mean? And people are everything. Everybody says, well, Jim, how did you create these cultures? I'm so tired of hearing culture. What's your culture? Is it a soft, pat your ass culture? Or is it, what are you guys here for? Yeah. So I would teach people that. I'm like, what are you here for? Are you here to make money or complain all day? I'm here to make money. Yeah. I go, awesome. So you're going to come to work for Painters, Collision Centers or Fix Auto or Caliber, and you're going to grind all day, right? I'm not going to hear a bunch of whining all day. Nope. I'm here to make money. I'm like, okay. I'm like, what do you think you should make per flat rate hour? I don't know. What's fair? What I want, Jim, is hours. Load your shop. Get the best people. It's about the people. The people will create your cultures through your dedication to them. Mm-hmm. Me being an ex-tech, that's how I did it all. I created my cultures by saying, hey, Tom, I got one for you. What? There's dignity in labor. You'll make more money doing this than you will getting your college degree. You're going to make more money than you've ever made in your life if you just follow my way. Follow my way. Be a leader. Yeah. Lead people to it. Make them understand. Hire the right ones and ask the right questions. Accountability, genuinity are key. And tell those people when you're interviewing them, everything you said today, Tom, if it's not true, less than a month from now, you'll be back up in this office having this conversation with me, and you'll probably be unemployed if it's not true.
Yeah.
I don't care what you say.
Another thing, too, that you did, I saw personally firsthand, was some of your young techs, when they started making some real money, you would mentor them on what to do with it. So then they weren't stupid with their money. And I think that was a really key piece. So speaking of the leadership of it, like you set an example, not just how to make the money, but how to build wealth with it, and I thought I always admired that, with you. So
I think it's important, Tom. I always do tell everybody, look, I'm an ex-tech. I just happen to have this brain for logistics, moving pieces, and people. So I tell everybody, you want to create the best collision repair facilities, get the best people. Now, they don't have to be highly trained. They don't. As long as they have an open mind and they want to learn. Look at, you saw what I did. I still have one of them now, works for me. His name is Ian. Ian's great. He's joined me when he was 18 years old. This kid couldn't even put on his shoes correctly, and he was scared of everything. He became one of my best journeyman techs.
Yeah.
They just follow me everywhere I go. My son, I got tons of them. But these young people made the show. But I also had A+ journeyman techs.
Yeah.
But I recruited them through A+ techs. Because A+ techs know A+ techs. That's the way that works.
Yeah.
However, first thing, Tom, first part of the interview. So, Tom, you're an A+ tech. Yep. All right. So, do you know everything? And if they said yes, I did not hire them.
There you go.
And I would always ask them, be careful how you answer that. And they'd be like, what do you mean? I'm like, let's just go. Do you think you know everything? And in most techs, no. I learn daily. I'm like, okay, awesome. And you have an open mind, you're willing to do whatever it takes, and you want to make as much money as possible. I do. Okay. You want to be part of leadership, you want to be in our leadership meetings, blah, blah, blah. I do. Okay, awesome. Great. We're transparent. They got to see every single number, all the way down to profitability.
Yeah.
Big deal. And I mentioned 3 meetings a day. The big production meeting in the morning, another release meeting at 10. It took 15 minutes, another one at 2. Because we had a daily go list, and if one of those cars was going to drop off, that customer had to be notified. Because those customers were notified 3 days in advance that their car was going to be done on a Wednesday at 2. That's how finite we would get. Those cars, when they're done, they left. That's how we were able to bring in the Cat 2s and the Cat 1s, because we were so diligent and strict about it.
Yeah.
The discipline was off the charts.
Yeah.
But people, Tom, to answer your question on that. Sorry, I could go forever on this stuff.
Yeah. I almost kind of want to have you back on when we talk about whip. We might do that, because like the whip one is a good one. That's the whip adjusting. But Jim, I want to thank you for coming on here, and I think maybe we schedule another one where we talk about some of these other things that we kind of didn't get to on this podcast. This is going to be a lot of editing, get this to fit a time stamp.
Yeah, well.
But I, again, as always, thank you for jumping on here.